And on today's show, why 412(e)(3) plans use life and annuity products. Part 3 of this week's series on 412(e)(3) retirement plans with nationally recognized 412(e)(3) expert Nick Palavita, MBA and attorney. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Backroom Technician. Let's get down to business. Well, welcome to day 3, Nick.
Hey, thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me back.
Well, I'm telling you, could be a practice change for a lot of people. They could change, say, hey, I've been banging my head up against 401k. I look like the same guy coming in and everybody else. Monday's show, we talked about the distinct advantages. Yesterday, not only tax advantages, which were huge enough, but then we added on the admin costs. We're starting to stack up some serious savings and what makes it distinctive. And of course, CPAs, CFOs, people who are cutting the checks, when they see the dramatic balance sheet issues to this, could be huge. Now, what's really huge for us today is we're talking about non-FINRA annuities and life insurance in these plans. And do you have any problem with me using the word fully insured defined benefit plan?
No, that is actually the word that they use, is fully insured. And you're right. They are non-FINRA products. As a matter of fact, you can't use FINRA products in these plans. They have to be fixed and guaranteed products in the plan.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that because I kind of push myself off as a bit of a product aficionado, but maybe not. Let's find out. Let's do annuities first.
Right.
It's my understanding I can't use indexed annuities.
Well, wait a minute. That's not true.
Oh,
you can use indexed annuities, okay?
I can.
You can, but remember, see, here's the thing about the annuity. The annuity has to be a unisex annuity. Here's where we see the problems in the market. There are a lot of annuities that aren't unisex. There are male annuities and female annuities. Guess what? You can't use them. That dates back from an old Supreme Court case, Arizona versus Norris. It came out of the great state of Arizona. So you have to use a unisex annuity. You can use equity index annuity. The problem is there's only 2 insurance companies in the whole United States that even offer an equity index annuity that's unisex that can be used in a pension.
But it can be used in this pension.
It can be used in this pension, yes.
Well, I have to say, and if you want to write me, say, Steve, who are those 2 companies? Just write me at steve.savant. Steve.savant at ashbrokerage.com, and I'll tell you who they are because now I want to know.
Right.
But I think that's huge because the traditional sense of fully insured in the back in the day were fixed annuities, that's it. But now as long as we have a unisex rate and we have guaranteed platform inside the equity indexed, right? I'm hearing that's usable. So what's the traditional? No, so I could use that. I couldn't use variable then. That's got to be off the table.
Variable is completely off the table. Part of the reason is the loads in the variable. Part of the reason is the lack of guarantees in the variable. Because remember, in a variable annuity, you're basic on the sub-accounts that emulate mutual funds, otherwise known as the mutual funds. And if you lose them all, how can you guarantee the benefits? At least that's how the service looks at it.
And are there fixed interest rates that have locked down maybe 5 years, 10 years, whatever the rates are? Those are doable, any of those? Or not, again, you have to have a unisex background.
It has to be unisex, and you definitely have to have that reviewed. We have them all reviewed by our enrolled actuaries, and here's the reason why. There's small problems that could exist in that annuity contract. Because remember, you have to guarantee the benefits at normal retirement age with a flat rate interest. Well, sometimes what happens is the insurance company doesn't have that long-term guarantee at a rate, and it backs off, and then all of a sudden you can't use the annuity. So my recommendation, before you say, hey, let's use that annuity, make sure one of the enrolled actuaries review this. We usually have several of our EAs review it to make sure that that annuity can be used in a 412(e)(3) context.
Now, you've already done this with all the product lines that we're already talking about. If we're using them, they've already seen the light of day with an enrolled actuary.
Oh yeah, right. We've had them reviewed by our enrolled actuaries. We've gone through over a dozen audits with I call them our friends at the IRS, because everybody thinks the IRS is, they're out to get you. Really, they're not. The Tax Exempt and Government Entities Division, which manages pensions, has a policy. Because remember, public policy is to encourage you to save for retirement. So they back that policy. And they help people, because you're going to make some mistakes if you get in this area. They have correction programs. People don't know this. If you make mistakes, they help you correct those mistakes and move forward and keep your plan qualified.
What about the second product that we need for this? And you make the IRS sound so friendly here. I just don't know what to say after all the political issues of the last 6 months. Right. But what about whole life now? Does it have to be participating whole life? Does it have to be non-participating? What are the rules of engagement?
That's a good question. Now you realize what the code says. Okay, the code says you have to guarantee all the benefits at normal retirement age. Then you have to look at how the IRS interprets the code, because most people don't want to buy a tax controversy. So when we're looking at a whole life product, generally the whole life product, okay, if it provides for level annual premiums to normal retirement age and the dividends and interest reduce the premium, which has to be, and by the way, that is in the reg, okay, then that insurance policy could be used in a 412(e)(3) context or a pension context. Again, if you're going to use a whole life contract, because we reviewed we were the exclusive third-party administrator for Principal Financial. We did all the reviews for Mass Mutual and quite a other different insurance companies. You want to have an enrolled actuary or group like us or somebody review the products to make sure they can be used in this context.
And you have a list now that your enrolled actuaries have already looked at, approved from a contractual point of view.
Correct.
And so, there's a pretty good menu here between the annuities and the whole life for 412E defined benefit plans?
You'd think there'd be a lot of them.
I would think so, yes.
But there isn't. There's maybe a dozen insurance companies today in the whole United States. And you think, are you serious? A dozen? That's it? Well, you have to go realize back in estate planning, and I did this back in 1984 and 87, and then I started in 1989. Do you know how many second to die insurance policies were in the United States in 1989?
Less than 5.
There were two. Manufacturer's life and mutual benefit. That was it. We reviewed the whole country. In the pension marketplace, in the small market, I'm talking about less than 100 employees, there's maybe a dozen insurance companies. That's it, that offer pension annuities and pension life products that can be used in these types of qualified plans.
When we come back from the break, we're going to talk a little bit more about, again, not what you cannot use, and then talk about some of these products and why it works so well. And I love the phrase, in a fully insured defined benefit plan. I love that. We'll be right back in about 30 seconds. Back in the day, life insurance professionals were called field underwriters. Then, carriers trained their field force in the basics of life insurance underwriting. Today, the insurance industry doesn't educate the agent population as they once did. But now you can have the Informed Risk Guide at your fingertips so you can illustrate a reasonable rate class for your life insurance prospects. Just request your copy of the Informed Risk Guide at downtobusiness.ashbrokerage.com. It's free from Ash Brokerage, the practice enhancement company. Well, welcome back to our second segment. Nick, let's talk about this because, again, I want to make that distinction. 412E3 is a section of the code. That section of the code actually speaks to defined benefit plans. And we're not talking about the listed transaction. We're talking about defined benefit plans. And now we're even adding a third layer of our definition to fully disclose, which is this phrase, fully insured defined benefit plan.
Right.
Now, when we talk about this, why it's fully insured, because we're using our product lines that have contractual guarantees. Now, they could have current company assumptions that are doing quite well, but we're going off the contractual guaranteed rates. Is that correct?
That is correct. When you design a plan in a context of 412(e)(3, or better is fully insured defined benefit plan, okay, what you're doing in a fully insured defined benefit plan, you're basing all the benefits at age 65 on a guaranteed basis. So let's say, Steve, you buy your life insurance or your annuity policy today. Go look at the values at age 65. By the way, in almost every insurance contract and annuity contract, they look really good at age 65, okay? So what happens is you're basing all your benefits on that, your death benefits, your guaranteed lifetime income, your lump sum amounts. A lot of people think, oh, I got to take a lifetime income. You don't. You could take a lump sum and roll it to your IRA. In practice, after 12 years, do you know more than 95% of our clients do not take the lifetime income? They take the lump sum and roll to their IRA. And there's actually good reasons to do that.
If they wanted to amortize maybe the tax hit, if they had a bracket bump, could they actually roll that into a Roth or no?
They could, but then they'd have to pay the tax as it's converted. But I'll tell you why they actually roll it into lump sum into an IRA is because they can continue to defer until April 1st after they turn age 70 and a half, and then they only have to take required minimum distributions.
Oh, nice play.
It's a nice play. The thing is, it's a good tax play. And that's
okay, well, let's talk about the mix now. Remember, there's a lot of yin and yang about this. You know, I mean, this discussion would be easier if we didn't go through the springing forward cash value controversy of years back. But let's talk about the mix. I know we can do an all annuity plan.
Sure.
Okay, so let's talk about that first.
Right. All annuity plans are easy. As a matter of fact, like I said, if you understand an annuity contract and you understand a whole life contract, you basically understand a pension. Okay, but annuity contracts, and we have several of them that are funded just with annuities. One has about $30 million in it. We tell them, hey, why don't you diversify into the stock market? They say, we've done so well with our annuity contract. Why would we want to be in the stock market? Their pension annuity has done really, really well. Okay, so the annuity contract is one thing that you could have 100% of the
and you could have this if it was a fixed lockdown contractual rate, unisex, right?
Right.
You could have that. Could you also have this index, even though there's only two products? Could you use indexing as well?
You could use indexing as well, but most insurance companies, here's what they do. They have the guaranteed rate, plus they have their current rate, and you get the better rate. So their guaranteed rate may be 1% or 3%, but their current rate could be 4. We've had them as high as 7.85%.
I'm sure back in the day.
Back in the day, you're
yeah,
right.
Not today.
Not today, but okay. But our clients were literally making 6, 7, 8% on these funds because even though the guarantee rate's 3, you get the better of the guaranteed rate or what they call their current crediting rate, whichever is greater. So you're not locked into whatever that guaranteed rate is. You get the better of them, but you never go below that guaranteed rate.
But you could use this combination of both types of annuities in the same plan?
Yes, you can. You can actually have different annuities within the plan. In other words, one year you could have a fixed annuity, but you have to buy it for all the participants. Next year you could have an indexed annuity, but you have to buy the same annuity for all the participants, so it's non-discriminatory.
I live with that. I like the diversity of that, and it still fits within the profile as long as it's unisex, right? Okay. My second question, okay, I want to put in life insurance because I want to fully insure this on the death issue, especially pre-retirement death.
Right.
Does it have to be participating whole life or can be non-par?
It can be like I said, you want to have your insurance policy reviewed by the enrolled actuary to make sure. The insurance policy has to have basically the same functions of the annuity. In other words, it has a guaranteed rate all the way to normal retirement age.
Unisex rates
It has to be a unisex rate, okay? And at the same time, it has to have the dividends reduce the premium. And you can't have paid up additions. So there are certain things, even when you do get the insurance contract, you have to look at to make sure that the insurance contract fits the parameters of a pension.
If it fits the parameters of the pension, I'm using the elective of the dividend. It has to be reduced, not paid up.
It's in the Internal Revenue Code. In other words, you can't make this stuff up, okay? The thing is, it's actually in the regulation. Dividends, experience gains, interest mortality gains, must be used. It says must be used to reduce future contributions.
Okay, no PUA accumulation.
No, you can't.
All right. Let's go down a little bit with our time left. What's the percentage I can put in if I'm putting annuities and I want to do the life insurance as well? What's my split?
Good question. As the attorney, remember, you get your JD degree. It means just depends, okay? It depends on this, all right? The maximum on an annual contribution is 50%. According to an old revenue ruling, 74307. And since I argue before the service, I tell them, the revenue rulings aren't the law, and they hate that, but it's true. But that revenue ruling has been around for so long that we know that if I went in front of a judge and I tried to strike that down, I'd have almost no shot. So the maximum you can put in the life contract is 50%. The annuity, 50%. That's the maximum. But there is a letter. Now notice this is a letter from Phoenix Home Life, here in Phoenix, to the commissioner that allows up to 66 2/3 on a theoretical basis. All right, now here's the problem with that letter, as I try to tell people. That's a letter. That's not the law. That's not even a revenue ruling. But I have seen good administrators around the country actually use that to support their position, okay? So my thinking is you don't want to do that because if you get that into that tax controversy, you're going to argue that letter's the law. It may not be the letter of the law. So I'd say 50% maximum.
That was the big disclosure by Nick just for a second ago. Well, listen, that's our show for today. Remember, before moving forward with any of the ideas, including the private letter ruling, always consult your tax advisor, your legal counsel, and your broker-dealer compliance department, who's probably never going to let that fly. And don't forget, you can view all our past episodes at downtobusiness.ashbrokerage.com. And remember, you could be wiser as an Ash Brokerage advisor. I'm Steve Savant. We'll see you tomorrow.